And I've got chills everywhere. Like, that's a story for a Friday. That's amazing. So cool. And it's from Calgary, so I feel extra proud. My hometown. Hey, this morning, obviously, we're following Hurricane Irma, a major hurricane in the Atlantic. Just a note, Irma is still closer to Africa than it is to North America. You can see Africa just on the edge of our screen right over here. But this storm intensified rapidly yesterday. You heard me talking about how it's tropical storm status would likely reach major hurricane status over the weekend. No, that all happened yesterday. So Category 3 right now, winds at 185 clicks an hour. It's going to track its way westward, likely strengthening up to Category 4. But this takes us through Wednesday, and you see that the track doesn't quite get us to land. So there's still a lot of uncertainty with where Irma will end up. It could travel straight west. It could curve up to the north. It could dive into the east coast of the United States. It could move all the way up towards Canada. And you can see that really well illustrated here with our spaghetti plots. There's still a lot of uncertainty with the models, with where this hurricane will go. We'll be following it through the weekend, and then you'll definitely hear Brandon Gomez talking about it into next week as well as we head in towards Tuesday as it moves its way likely towards the Caribbean. Tropical Storm Lydia sitting right over portions of the United States and Mexico, prompting heavy rains as we were talking about. This storm will weaken because it's moving its way across land, and obviously there's a lot of friction. It'll rip the storm apart. Canada, it depends on where you are this morning, but by the way, happy meteorological fall. Meteorological fall obviously starts on September the 1st. You're probably more familiar with astronomical fall, which happens a little bit later on in the month. But in terms of temperature, September 1 is when it starts to get cooler, and we're seeing that for sure. Thunder Bay, east. Look at these current temperatures. It's cold this morning. In the west, I mean 16 right now. In Winnipeg, 13 in Calgary, much warmer. We have heat warnings in the west. But in the east, we have frost advisories. Welcome to fall in Canada, a tale of two countries. Very chilly start to the day. Some communities dealing with wet snow this morning north of Quebec City all the way up towards Lab City in Labrador. Take a look at these pictures that we last through today. Lab City is actually under a special weather statement. In behind that, we've got below seasonal temperatures. Now, as this precipitation falls for Atlantic Canada, keeps it a touch warmer, but the cool air sits over Ontario and Quebec through today, into tomorrow as well, spreading its way eastward through Saturday, through the Maritimes. Then we get warmer air moving its way up from the south, milder conditions pushing in with some precipitation, so it'll warm up, but it'll also be much wetter into late Saturday, early Sunday, and then through the rest of the long weekend for eastern Canada. Quick look at the forecast for the east. Cooler temperatures today, depending on where you are. 17, that's it. In Montreal, a mix of sun and cloud. And then for Ontario, lots of sun, but you'll definitely need a sweater today. Canada, that's a look at the east. Right now, here's a look at your local forecast. Storm Lydia, we talked about that in the last half hour, and I'll detail more through the program. In Mexico, causing a lot of rainfall there. We're also following Hurricane Irma, which is in the Atlantic, and it's strengthening rapidly. I mean, yesterday it went from tropical storm status to major hurricane. Canada, we're not dealing with any tropical weather. It's cold. That's what we're dealing with. In the east, in particular, Western Canada, you are warm. Everyone needs to hop on a plane and just fly west, because that's where summer still is present. But for September 1st, we're talking snow and very chilly temperatures. Arctic high pressure is in place over Ontario and Quebec, and that means it is chilly this morning. We've got frost in Sudbury. We've got widespread frost advisories, in fact, for all areas in the blue, a couple communities in through Quebec as well, because of the likelihood of frost this morning. And look at these current temperatures. You guys, right now, it is -2 in Timmins, Ontario. I'm serious. -2. That's gross. It's September 1st. What happened to summer? And it's not just cold in Ontario. It's cold all across the east. We're seeing temperatures dramatically cooler this morning than they were even this time yesterday. So this is the second day in a row I've used this map to show the temperature drop. You can see Sudbury is 6 degrees cooler. Ottawa's almost 10 degrees colder than it was this time yesterday. Same story in Montreal. Even all the way towards the Atlantic. St. John's, Cornerberg, your same Z's as yesterday, but Halifax, 3 degrees cooler. We've got some rain. We have snow as well. We've got significant rain for portions of the Labrador coast. We also have a special weather statement for Lab City because of the likelihood of that wet snow continuing. Yeah, snow. We have some photos, I think. Nope, not at all. It was snow yesterday. So in terms of that snowfall forecast, the worst of it has already fallen. A bit of wet snow continues this morning. Couple more centimeters. It's mixing with rain. We're also seeing the highest rainfall amounts really up towards that corner of Labrador and Newfoundland. Much more showery in Newfoundland today, and then just a few sprinkles as we're heading down through the Maritimes. But generally, it's just pretty cool in Atlantic Canada today. Take a look at these temperatures. The seasonal temperatures are in the low 20s, so On average, Halifax, you'd be sitting closer to about 22 this time of year. Today, 16 is all you'll get to. And you can definitely see that rain is much more amplified the further north you go. Generally today in Quebec, it will clear west to east. So communities right along the Ontario-Quebec border will see much more sunshine today, but it's cool. Temperatures, again, below seasonal, 17 today in Montreal. Now we add in Ontario, and it's kind of a cool and crisp day. I hate to say crisp at the beginning of September, but really that's what we're feeling. The far northwest will be dealing with some rain through Red Lake and Thunder Bay, but otherwise it's in Toronto. But I mean, it's snowing in Lab City, so there you go. It's fall. But fall still means warm weather in parts of Canada and Western Canada. You're soaking it up. We've got heat warnings in southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan this morning, and then frost advisories in the east. Welcome to winter and fall, really, in Canada. Not winter yet. Winter soon enough. Today is September 1st, which is, of course, the first day of meteorological fall. We divide the calendar up a couple different ways. You're probably very familiar with astronomical seasons. That would be heading into about mid-September, around the 21st, usually. That's when we say is the official welcome to autumn. That's in terms of the Earth's relationship with the sun. But if we talk about temperature, if we break down the temperature annually, September 1st is when we start to see that cool down. September, October, November, that would fall under the meteorological season of autumn. And that's what we're in now, and we're seeing that shift in the forecast. So it's quite chilly in the east, particularly through Ontario and Quebec because of Arctic high pressure. In terms of frost advisories, all areas in the blue can expect it's feeling a bit frosty this morning. Not a hard frost, but enough that you may have to use an extra dose of wiper fluid on your windshield just to clear things up this morning. Low-lying areas, higher risk for frost. So if you are running out real early this morning to protect your plants, hopefully you brought them in last night, but they might do better inside where it's a little bit warmer. In terms of those daytime highs, yeah, it is cooler in eastern Canada, definitely below seasonal. A lot of communities definitely still hovering, should be hovering in the mid-20s or so, and we're not seeing that really from the Ontario-Manitoba boundary all the way towards the Atlantic. We also have some rain, some showers this morning, still lingering for parts of Newfoundland. Snow, wet snow persisting for Lab City, and even that continues further south, just north of Quebec City this morning. A lot of that will melt on contact, but just keep in mind that it could persist for the morning. Now, the below seasonal air moves its way really right across the east, dominant through Saturday, but then into Sunday, better news. We've got milder air that pushes in right across the region. With it comes some moisture, though, and we start to be talking some rain for portions of southern Ontario Saturday overnight into Sunday, and that could really develop into heavier rain for eastern Ontario, southern Quebec through Sunday, eventually by Sunday evening, moving up through the Maritime provinces. Western Canada air quality is our concern from smoke from wildfires. We're also seeing hot air sit over not only southern Alberta, but also in through southern BC as we head into the weekend. So temperatures today, this is where we're at. Hottest will be Lethbridge at 31, and that's why we've got the heat warning there. But just know in through Vancouver, for example, you'll get up to 30 degrees by the time you hit Sunday. Canada, this is what happens when you get to produce your own weather content. You get to cry. Oh, that was good. Thank you for indulging me this morning. Hey, Canada, good morning. We're starting with our tropical forecast following Hurricane Irma, which is now a major hurricane. I talked about this first yesterday as a tropical storm, and it had explosive development yesterday, going from tropical storm status all the way up to a Category 3 hurricane mid-afternoon. So right now we're seeing winds at 185 kilometers an hour. It's tracking to the west, but over the next couple of days, this takes us all the way until Wednesday, you can see we're not even seeing the storm reach land yet. It will likely continue to intensify. That's what we do know. But in terms of track, that's still pretty uncertain. In fact, we've got the spaghetti plots, which shows a couple different computer models showing that there's a lot of variation to what could happen with Irma. It's one to watch. Not sure what the impact for land will be just yet. But for sure, until about Tuesday, that's when you'll start to see those headlines. Where we are seeing a definite impact is Tropical Storm Lydia. So this is in the Pacific through Mexico. A whole lot of rain there and very strong winds. This storm will continue to degrade through the day today. Now at home, we've got very chilly temperatures across Ontario and Quebec. It feels like fall even into Atlantic Canada, below seasonal, and a wee bit wet as well. So those frost advisories across Ontario and Quebec, all areas in the blue, very chilly this morning. Sudbury, I've seen a couple tweets indicating the frost this morning, and no doubt temperatures are just above freezing. In fact, Timmins, you are currently -2 degrees Celsius. It is quite cool. This map is the temperature difference from this time right now in comparison to yesterday. So, for example, in Ottawa, it's 8 degrees colder right now than it was yesterday. A lot of communities, you're definitely feeling that chill. Plus, we've got the moisture over to Atlantic Canada, so keep that in mind. Now, Western Canada, it's much hotter, but we're still talking active weather, namely in southern Manitoba, where we've got thunderstorms that have been pushing through. This will impact your forecast coming up through the day. So in the next half hour, I'll detail when these storms move out, where they go, and if you're looking for 30 degrees, where you have to head to. For now, here's your local forecast. Few years, at least, 18 or so. Yeah, that's unbelievable. Just interesting to see where his career goes, and interesting to follow our weather pattern through today, where we've got heat in the west, cool air in the east, and we're heading into what many are calling the last long weekend of the summer. I know some kids have already gone back to school, but if you are looking at your plans for the next couple of days, if you're in eastern Canada, you likely want to bring along rain gear, plus warmer sweaters than you normally would, and you might want to leave the bathing suit at home. So the east, this is what you can expect today. Really from northeastern Ontario all the way towards the Atlantic. Temperatures are cool. We're seeing often this time of year, we're supposed to be sitting in the low 20s, mid 20s. It's not happening today. And depending on where you are in Atlantic Canada, you're dealing with rain. We've got wet snow still falling in the Lab City area. This will transition over to rain as the day progresses. Heaviest rainfall in Labrador will be right along the coastline, heading eastward towards Newfoundland today. But all the way south, just north of Quebec City, there is that bit of wet flurry activity this morning. Again, that transitions over to rain as the air temperature warms up. Super sunny across Ontario today, but look at these temperatures. 17 today in Barrie, 19 in Windsor, 19 for Toronto. Timmins this morning has been below freezing, so it is going to be a cool day right throughout. Gets a little bit warmer into the northwest, but this evening you can anticipate some rain and thunderstorms moving through, and that's the case through southern Manitoba this morning. 24 today in Winnipeg, but it's very wet to start you off, very active. 28 in Brandon. This is where we start to see the heat, but again, we've got that line of thunderstorms moving through Manitoba. Sky clears as we head into Saskatchewan and Alberta. Temperatures above seasonal, in fact, and that's where the warm air is. We've got heat warnings still in place for southern Alberta and southern Saskatchewan. Lethbridge today in Alberta, for example, getting up into the low 30s. We see 30 degrees return as we head into Kelowna. Vancouver today 23, but into this weekend temperature continues to rise, and you're up to about 30 degrees as you hit Sunday. Now with that heat in the west comes reduced air quality, so know that while it is going to be very pleasant to be outside in terms of temperature, not so pleasant will be the breathing conditions, because that smoke is quite dense in parts of BC, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba. Now in terms of that line of storms, it's right through the province of Manitoba today. Where does it go? Eastward. As the evening progresses, crosses the border in towards northwest and northern Ontario. So it will clear eventually by sunset. In behind that, pretty nice day, though quite cloudy across Saskatchewan, a few isolated showers. Sunshine in Alberta and BC today. Our next system is a frontal system that hits the central and north coast in BC as we head into Saturday, midday or so. This skirts across the northern prairies as we head through into the early Sunday hours, but south of that, lots of sunshine through most of your long weekend. But again, just watch out. You can actually see Harvey at the bottom of our screen here, fueling cloud up into southwest Ontario. So Windsor, it's fairly overcast for you this morning. That's because of the remnants of Harvey to the south. And then north of that, Arctic high pressure sitting right over Ontario and Quebec. And that means it is chilly. It is sweater weather today. It's also umbrella weather, poncho weather, rain boot weather, depending on where you are, winter boot weather for portions of Quebec. Back up towards Labrador, we've had wet snow this morning and overnight last night. And then over to Atlantic Canada, you can see there are a few lingering showers in Newfoundland. But frost advisories really are our biggest concern this morning across portions of Ontario, and then a couple communities in Quebec as well. Very chilly, not only this morning, but also overnight tonight. Timmins, for example, this morning has been sitting below freezing, now just cracking the plus side, 1 degree right now. These are a look at your current temperatures. Windsor, obviously, where it's cloudy, it's a little bit warmer. But we look at this map here. Don't get alarmed. These are not minus temperatures. This is the temperature change from this time yesterday. Many communities still significantly colder right now than they were Thursday morning. So you need a good jacket. You need one this morning. I also mentioned that rain just over to Atlantic Canada. So that will persist for the morning. Thunderstorms are the biggest story across southern Manitoba. We've got this front moving its way right across the province and south of the border. Very active weather there. And you can see those thunderstorms will slowly trek their way across the province province into northwest Ontario by this evening. But in terms of your temperature in the west, that's where the heat is. Still is summer despite being September 1st. Lethbridge, 31 degrees today. That's a look across the country. Now let's take you a little bit closer to home.